Why law? I mean, why did you take up law? Like, is it from family or is it your personal decision? What made you take up law?
Actually, so I graduated with a dual degree of political science and economics. So I was always torn between law and business. And
Okay.
so when I went back from the States, I took up law first in UP. And then parang I decided that I wanted to do business. But there's a program in LaSalle that did a dual degree of business and law. So I entered into that program. My dad told me, try mo na lang kasi nasimulan mo na yung law eh. Kung ayaw mo
Right.
talaga mag-law, then drop the MBA. I dropped the law and then continue your MBA. But I ended up finishing both. Sinabay ko
Wow.
rin, law and MBA. And, funny stories because I don't know, 'di ba sa unang panahon, mahilig sila mag-aral kasi may, 'di ba, my brother is a lawyer, my dad was a lawyer also.
Right.
So they would always stay in the library to study para hindi guluhin ng tao.
Of course.
I studied in Starbucks or coffee shops. And they never understood that. 'Di ba ngayon, yung mga kabataan ngayon, 'di ba,
Wait,
they always study in.
can you really focus? Well, like on
Yun
a
nga,
Starbucks, like
yun yung
when someone
tinatanong nga sa
passes by.
akin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 'di ba? So I would always have my earphones and listen to classical music
Okay.
and have my corner. So alam na yan, pagpasok na ako sa Starbucks, alam na ng mga barista kung ano yung mga gusto ko, ano yung mga iinumin kong coffee, handa na. Tapos parang alam mo nila yung space ko kasi I'll be there 7 in the morning when it opens until like
Right.
7 p.m., 'di ba? Um, And so my dad would always tell me, you're not going to graduate, you're not going to get good grades, ganyan, ganyan. Because I was a working student. So I was working and I paid for my tuition
Wow. Okay.
and para hindi makita yung grades ko, di ba? Pag yung parents mo kasi yung mag,
Yeah.
ano,
Yeah.
magbabayad, sabihin
That's
nila,
true.
nalakan yung card mo, yan yung, ano mo, grades mo, di ba?
Yeah.
Um,
As long as your parents are the one paying for your tuition and giving you your baon and everything, you are their employee. So you follow
right?
their rules. All right. So if you don't want to follow their rules, better make your money on your own, guys. Okay.
Yes, yes, that's right. But with hard work that I did and through Starbucks, nagpa-plug ako. Sana marinig ako ng Starbucks para pwede ko na silang, 'di ba,
You're really
pagkitain
a
dahil sa
coffee
plug.
fanatic, huh?
Yes, I love coffee. Um,
What's your favorite drink?
Americano with
Okay.
white chocolate. Oh.
Mhm.
Next time pag magkita tayo, bigyan mo ako, ha.
Yeah, sure. That's a
No, so
promise.
my dad was saying to me when he was still alive, he wasn't going to go to my graduation kasi Lasal yun eh. Buong pamilya ko, Atenista. So,
Oh my
syempre, di
God.
ba? Di ba siya
Blue-blooded.
parang, hindi ako pupunta sa graduation mo unless valedictorian ka. Ginanon niya ako. Tapos nag-aaral ka pa sa Starbucks, hindi talaga ako pupunta sa graduation mo. On the day of my graduation, the family didn't know. I graduated valedictorian.
But
So,
they did go because you were valedictorian.
yeah, parang my dad was saying during lunch or parang brunch namin, kumakain. Kasi sabi niya, ayoko na nga pumunta. Sinabi ko nga sa'yo, kailangan valedictorian ka. I kept it a secret. Sabi ko, hindi, huwag kang umakyat ng stairs. Huwag kang umakyat ng stage. Kasi valedictorian ako. Sabi niya, seriously? Sabi ko, oo nga. Sabi niya, but I haven't seen your
Oh.
script. I haven't seen it. Sabi ko, yung speech ko daw, parang hindi daw niya ako nakita nagsulat ng speech or anything. Sabi ko, ay, so kaya nga surprise. Diba? so,
That
so he
is a
went.
flex, guys. That's what it is.
Yeah.
A sim flex. No, it's not even a
Oh,
sim
hindi,
flex.
grabe. Pinaghirapan ko naman yun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pinaghirapan ko yun.
I know that's well deserved. So you were studying and working at the same time. What were you
Yeah.
doing as a job back then?
Well, actually, the easy thing about it is I was working for the family business. so,
Okay.
so Binabayaran ako to
You're
help
earning
my
your keep. Yeah.
mom, yeah, my with the family business. And that's what I used to pay tuition, and wala na akong allowance, ma'am. But
Okay.
at
Yeah.
least, diba? At least,
Did,
yeah.
did you have any side hustles in when while you were studying?
In New York, when I studied there, I
Mhm.
had three jobs. In the library, I was working for a nonprofit organization that trained mga previously incarcerated people to start their own business because in the States, they usually don't hire people who were previously
Yes.
incarcerated, so it's hard
Yeah.
for them to make a living, right? So we
Correct.
would train them. And minsan nagwa-waiter-waiter sa mga ibang-ibang lugar, mga under the table, which I shouldn't be saying kasi 'di ba baka hindi na nila ako
Interest.
mahahabol, nasa Pilipinas na ako.
But okay, the thing here is that you studied also in the States, right?
Yes,
Okay. What did you take up there?
political science and economics.
Okay. And then how long was that?
That was for 3 years because I did 1 year in Ateneo. Hindi ko na naman sinabi sa parents ko. The funny story is I was in Ateneo, and then I remember my mom saying that she wanted one of her kids to go to Fordham in
Right.
New York because they were able to visit the campus. And so what I did was I asked my brother, Kuya Coco, Congressman Coco Nograles,
Yeah.
for $50 for the application fee. So, tinago ko na naman sa parents ko na mag-a-apply ako. And then, I got in
Right.
with a little bit of scholarship. And so, wala silang magagawa kahit mag-isa ako doon. Sinabi lang nila, don't come home with pregnant or
Right.
with, diba?
You
So, they
you have two
supported me.
siblings, right? And
Three.
both three. They're all guys?
So my sister, the eldest, is a doctor who's in
Oh,
the States,
sister.
and
Okay.
then two boys, si Chair
Two
Carlo
boys.
and Congressman Coco.
Okay, so your eldest sister is a doctor and not a
Yes.
lawyer.
No.
Oh, okay. I thought I was
She
gonna
chose
ask
a
like
different path.
right. I was gonna ask like how is it being in a family of like all lawyers? Do you like
Yeah. So
always
my
try to
sister, no, my sister's a doctor, and then
uh
Chair Carlo is a lawyer.
okay.
My brother naman, Kong Coco, MBA siya. So I'm the one with the law degree and the MBA degree. Konti na lang magdo-doktor na rin ako para makuha ko yung tatlo. Hindi, joke lang. Hindi ko na kaya.
Okay. Um so with now you're practicing law currently,
Yes,
correct?
yes, yes.
Okay.
I'm
So
practicing law now. Yeah.
I have here a few questions that are really what one of I mean these questions are mostly searched right now in Google by people with regards to law. So I want to get your views and opinions and
Sure.
share some share some facts about these types of uh, cases. So the first one would be one of the hottest topics currently, which is Violence Against Women Act. Can you tell me
And
more about
children.
that? Like, can you elaborate on that kind of law?
So it's Violence Against Women and Children Act, no? VAUC for short. So
Vowsy,
it's,
yeah.
yeah, VAUC. So kasama yung children yan, hindi lang babae.
Oh, okay.
So, diba, this is the hot topic. We're not gonna name names, but
Yeah,
we
yeah,
all
yeah. Let's
know
not
that
name names
this is
anymore.
a, yeah. But this is a hot topic now. And what really comprises of VAUC or violence against women and children are four things. No? There's physical abuse, there's psychological abuse, there is sexual abuse, and there's also economic abuse. So if you are a victim of those four, it can fall under VAUC for both
Okay,
children and women. The
okay.
interesting thing about this is that most of the people think you have to be married to be able to be convicted under VAUC, right? The
Right.
woman has to be married to the guy. But it's actually committed by the intimate partner. So it could be an ex-husband
Mm-hmm. Oh
who
yeah.
did any kind of abuse. It could be a boyfriend. It could be someone na live-in mo lang. It could be an ex-boyfriend, a fiance, or even if you're just dating. Diba? Casually
Oh,
dating. Hindi
okay.
yung mga one night lang ha.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yung
yeah.
casually dating. Then that can also be covered under VAUSI.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
mean, for
sa
example,
children
you just
naman, yeah.
met each other through, let's say, an online dating app, and
Mm.
then you met for the first time, then something violent happened. It's the same thing.
Well, if that's a one night encounter, no, that wouldn't really be considered casually dating, or I mean, that wouldn't be considered sexually or
Okay.
dating a relationship. Then, if something happens, then that's rape or acts of
Right.
lasciviousness or whatsoever. But if there's already a relationship, I don't know when it's considered really dating. If it's the second date, the third date,
Yeah,
if there's
correct.
already an intimate relationship ongoing, and you are physically, emotionally, psychologically, or economically abused, any of those four, then that
That's
could fall
interesting.
under
You
VAUSI.
mentioned about economic. What does that
Yes.
mean?
It's basically when the guy will kind of make you financially dependent on you. You know how guys will lure you and say, "Sige, I will cut off um
Your
your
sustento
allowance," or
or yeah, your
oo, yung
allowance.
mga ganyan, yung
Oh,
parang,
okay.
and then you have no choice but to stay and be abused. That's economic abuse.
Wow. You know, I get those messages in my inbox from women that they say that exact thing that my husband or my partner's threatening me that he will cut off my
Cut me off,
allowance
yeah.
or paano sasabihin niya parang paano yung anak ko, we have children or we're paying for something and he
Mm-hmm.
threatens that and every time
Mm-hmm.
I have to beg, they say.
Yes,
So they ask, what can I do to protect myself from that? Because she's just gonna say that I'm either a housewife or a homemaker, so
yeah,
she doesn't really have a job and she's really
yeah.
dependent with the guy. And then I didn't know that it's really a
That
type of abuse.
Yes, it could fall under economic abuse. So you can go to your kapitan in your barangay
Right.
and file a complaint, and that could fall under VAUSI, under
Wow.
economic abuse.
Okay. Um, how is there a gravity like? Is there jail time for this when this happens? Like
Uh,
all of these
yes,
Gabausi.
yes, there's jail time. I'm not exactly sure right now how long it is, but there's a jail time and a fine for that
Okay.
if you're found guilty of VAUSI.
There's no death penalty right now for rape, right?
No.
There's
No,
none.
there's no more
But
death penalty. I mean, it's just suspended. They can say there's death penalty, diba? But then you can't
okay.
really do death
So
penalty.
for rape, that's how do you call it? Like it's actual rape that proven that it
If
really happened.
Yeah,
Um, what's
that's
the worst that?
reclusion perpetua, meaning
Okay,
you'll be in jail for about I think 50 years, 60 years,
6 years.
60, 50 years or 60 years. It's reclusion perpetua.
Okay, so that's a lengthy time. Do you,
Mm.
in your opinion, should we bring back the death penalty? Is that something that will will
Sorry,
elevate?
that's 20 years to 40 years ang reclusion
Wow, that's still
perpetua.
long.
Yes, yes.
20 years is almost like a lifetime loss for you,
Yeah, yeah.
right? If yeah, if you're like, I mean, for example, you're a 30-year-old guy, you lose 20 years or 40 years, 30, 40 years of your, that's a lot,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
right?
Mm-mm.
So guys, think twice if you're gonna do something really, really long and
Yeah,
something that
don't
you really
rape
like to,
girls.
right?
Basically, don't do that.
Right. I mean, it's
Right?
one of the worst things that you could ever think of for someone like a girl that you like, and that's one of just
Yeah.
really a
And the
horrible.
psychological
Yes,
impact
effect.
that could do
Yeah,
to the girl is
for sure.
really terrible.
I, I'm really
Mm-mm.
curious. Like, why do a lot of women go off the record or never really go out public about this happening to them, like vowsy or rape against women? Is it really because they're really ashamed, or is it what's the common thing that women really actually feel about this when this
You
happens to
know,
them?
this is funny because I just came from a show, and then one of the questions was someone saying that her father sexually abused her when she was 8, and now she's 20 and just coming out right now about
Wow.
it. And
Yeah.
there's a prescription period for this, which is 10 years. So she actually cannot anymore file a case against this. And
Oh
I'm
wow.
I'm very much I'm very much very vocal to all the women out there, and I always tell them, if you are being abused,
Mm-hmm.
if you are raped, if you are being violated, you have to be strong and stand up for your rights, because we have rights for that. I think it's a Filipino culture that the
It
girls, like,
women are submissive, no?
yes, it's a Filipino culture, because if you go to
Yeah.
the States, the women there are more vocal and they're more, right,
Right. Yeah.
really going to go straight to the police, or
Right.
you'll see it, right? Mga, what do you call that? Sa atin, hindi
I
marites.
think it's an Asian culture thing. I mean, like in
Yeah.
Japan, in Korea, even in China,
Mm-mm.
like
Mm-mm.
women are very timid when it comes to like being public about. Parang it becomes shameful for them when in fact you should be open about it that it really happened to you. Like most of my
Yeah.
friends that I know of that had that kind of thing happen to them, they don't really want to talk about it publicly until after a few years pa. Maybe it's because of the
Yes.
psychological damage that it does to them, right?
Yes.
So,
And it's
and
also, yeah, we go back to the culture, right? We go back to the culture of the women just really being afraid to say something, because let's say you get sexually abused and there's no witnesses. It's also being afraid
yeah,
that no one will listen to you
no one
and
will
no
believe
one
you.
will believe you, and then ikaw yung mapapahiya in the end.
Oh.
So there's a balancing act on that, diba?
Right. Okay, I don't know. It it's a funny question, but what if it's the other way around? Is there something for guys? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a
I'm being
possibility too, right?
I'm asked this, I'm always asked
Okay.
this question. There's no law that protects the men. If you are being physically violated by a woman, then you file for
Physical
physical
injuries.
injuries, yes.
Okay.
But there's no violence against men. And I
Not just
think
physical, but
the
anything vocal, like in words,
verbal,
verbal,
yeah,
yeah,
slander yon. That's only
slander.
slander.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Because
So
women can
for
be
men,
very
wala.
hurtful for all. I mean, women can really
Yeah,
be hurtful also at times with their words, especially when
yes.
they're really emotional. They can utter really the worst words they can say to men, and that really
Sana
happens to a
wala
lot of
kang
guys.
hugot dyan, ha?
No, because a lot of guys also go to me and ask for their advice.
Yeah.
Because they have, partners that really are abusive in terms of words. I haven't
Yes.
had an experience when a guy gets abused by a girl, like, physically, because, women will, unless she's a UFC fighter or something, right? And the guy is just,
Yeah.
an average guy. I mean, as a
I
guy,
have,
kaya ko
yeah,
salag-salagin yun eh. Pero if it's words,
yeah,
sometimes really it's really, and I think that's the concern of most men that get berated with words by women, so that's the only thing they
yeah.
can do.
Yeah. And I guess it's also Filipino culture why we still don't have a law like that, because if it's going to be passed, right? Parang sino naman din lalaki sasabihin na inaabuso siya ng babae, 'di ba?
Yeah.
Right, right.
Right.
And I
That's
have
true.
some friends who are even physically abused by their exes. And they come to me, and I would always tell them there's no law that would protect you except if you're going to file a case against physical
Right.
injuries lang.
Okay, so bottom line is, if there's any abuse going happening to you, you go straight to the police, like the nearest police station, right?
Yes, or your
Okay.
barangay.
That's it. Don't go to your friend because your friend might not be able to help you. So go straight to the police station, and they'll put it on record right away. right?
Yeah. Actually, so under Bausi also, sa mga marites dyan, no, sa mga chismosa, if if there are two competent witnesses, let's say your neighbors who can hear that a woman is
Right.
being physically abused, right? Usually you can hear that then.
Yeah.
The neighbors can be the one to file the complaint in the barangay
Oh, they
for
can.
the
Okay.
women. So the friends, if the friends, your friends know that you're
Mm.
being abused, your friends can be the one to file the complaint
Right.
instead of the woman.
And that's a good marites right there.
Yes.
With all the
Yan yung
negative,
dakilang, yung, oo.
oo, yun ang dakilang marites.
Yun
Oo.
yung dakilang marites.
That's doing the right thing actually. If you hear something like that regularly, if you have a neighbor like that you feel like you hear that all the time, and then paglabas
Yes.
niya parang kita mo parang galing sa wrestling match. So
Yes.
that's a cause for concern already. Oo.
Mm-mm.
I I've also seen some videos nga of women parang making a signal na they're being abused. And
Yes,
then
it's trending now on Facebook,
right,
right?
I've seen that on Facebook
And
like
then
parang
there's a number that they call. Sana may ganyan din sa Pilipinas. No?
oo, parang SOS or something, parang
Mm-mm.
ganun.
Mm-mm.
It's a call for help. So be cautious then when someone does that to you. Like they tap you, all of a sudden hindi mo kilala tapos they do like some sort of
Yeah.
hand signal on you.
Yeah.
I think that's an
Mm-mm.
SOS eh. It's
Mm-mm.
a cry for. So it's something that you can do as well, if you can't do anything. Yeah. That's very
Yep.
interesting. Yeah. Okay. Next one that I want to ask is about cyber libel cases. So, like, how
Ito
far
na yung
can you?
talagang dakilang marites. Ito na.
Oh,
Ito na
yeah, yeah,
talaga si
no.
Marites.
Like, in layman's term, can you explain to us what cyber libel means? Like the
Okay.
easiest way that
Yeah.
someone can understand. Yeah.
So if you are going to post online or any
Right.
social media about a person that is identifiable, the person is very much identifiable,
Right.
especially if there's picture or the name is there, uh, on something that's defamatory, meaning it will discredit the person, it will
Right.
give dishonor to the person, it would you would say something against the person like this person committed a crime which is not true, and it has malicious intent, which is usually malicious in fact by law, so it's already kind of by our law, there's already malice implied when you post something against someone to their discredit or dishonor. Then that's basically cyber libel.
Okay. Okay. So,
I hope that explained it in an easy
yeah,
way.
I've seen cases before kasi like, I remember that guy that said he has a bounty for the president if he like the guy that tweeted. I remember that.
Yeah, 'di ba
And
nahuli yon? Nahuli
oh,
yon.
yeah, yeah. And he was really sorry about it for saying that. But it's
Mm-mm.
not like the government's like flexing on your right to um to public, and what do you call that? Like
Public speech to ano.
the
So
freedom
there's
freedom of
freedom
speech,
of
right?
speech. Yes. Yes.
So
There's
that
there's
it's
always
not
a fine line, right? There's always a fine line between that, the freedom of speech and also posting. So what makes it cyber libel is when you discredit, dishonor, or you cause contempt of a person.
right.
That's when it becomes libelous.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay. So eh, that's why I always say think before you click,
Click.
like
Yes.
send. Like, do you think it's gonna hurt a lot of people? This usually happens on social media, especially on Facebook. I mean, Twitter can be very what do you call this, deadly for people who are
Yes.
not ready to stomach the comments that you will get.
There's a
I've
lot of
seen a lot of
trolls
people,
also.
yeah, I've seen a lot of people deactivate their accounts because of the hurtful words they receive on Twitter, like the backlash that they receive on that. Twitter is really unforgiving. It's very savage. If you're not ready for the backlash of you saying something, Twitter is not for you. Mas forgiving pa nga for me ang Facebook tsaka Instagram. Pero
Yeah.
with Twitter, it's really savage. It's really unfiltered. Like people, and sometimes they go really overboard, and Twitter will go after you, but it's not like Facebook and Instagram. So I tell guys, be careful what you put out if you don't have really proof of it.
Yes.
So
So always check your facts also
yeah, always check your
before
facts. Like
you
yeah,
before
make
you
make
click
make sure you
or
can,
say something, right?
if you have, if you can say, if you want to say that it's your opinion, you can put a disclaimer. This is just my opinion, right?
Yes.
It
Yes.
kind of
That
protects you,
that
right?
will that will save you. Yes.
Right. Because there's a difference between you saying that I think that this person is that, in my opinion, rather than I know for a fact that this person is doing this and that, selling illegal drugs or something. That already is a claim, right?
But
So
also because you're already identifying a person, even if you say, I think this
also it's the
person
same
is like
thing.
this, it's still going to be considered cyber libel because you're already identifying a person.
Okay. What are the legalities that you'll face if ever you commit something like that?
So cyber libel, you can either get criminally convicted
Mm.
for imprisonment and a fine. Um, I
Uh,
think that's about 6 years, I think, and a
6
fine
years.
of,
Wow.
yeah, if I'm
Okay.
not mistaken, I'm trying
Yeah.
to remember ilang years, but parang 6 years siya. And there's also a fee for it. Pwedeng umabot ng 1 million yan eh.
Wow. There's a fine
So
up to 1
medyo,
million.
mm, I think
I,
so.
there's this case, I think celebrities facing like a 1 billion cyber libel case. Is that
Yes, yes.
possible? Who-
If that's, yeah, if that's what if that's what the judge will say that it's enough
Wow.
grounds, no,
Wow, 1
then yeah,
billion. It's crazy. But it can
yeah,
really happen, huh?
yeah. Because libel is punishable from about 6 months to 6 years,
Mm.
and or a fine of 40,000 to 1.2 million. Cyber libel is a higher degree, so that increases naman the penalty, and it can be from 2 years, 4 months and a day to 8 years
Okay.
imprisonment, and then a higher fee, more than 1 million.
Okay.
So, yun. Diba yung kaso na yan? Let's not name
Yeah.
names,
So
but we
guys,
all know that.
even if you delete your tweet or your post, if na screenshot na siya,
Yes.
yan din. Wala na. Kumbaga, it's out there. Like when you post
Yeah.
something online, it's out there. So, kumbaga, yun nga, it's like what you said, attorney, meron na siyang resibo.
Yeah, I always tell this also because I would have some clients wherein they took a screenshot, and then if you look at the Facebook, it's deleted.
Right.
Actually, the PNP Cybercrime Division unit has this like technology, whatever. You can submit the screenshot, you give your phone, they'll look at the phone, they'll look into it, and then they can see the post again or whatsoever. So
Okay.
screenshots save you. That's an evidence. That's a
Okay.
piece of evidence that you can use.
Okay. With cyber libel, who do you report it to?
So
Still.
there's a PNP
Mm.
Cybercrime Division unit. You
Okay.
can file a case right
Mm-hmm.
away in the court where you live, or where the defendant lives, where it happened. So
Yeah.
basically where you live, right? Because it's
Right.
hard because it's online, so you can just file a
Oh.
case where you live. But it's easier to do it through the PNP Cybercrime Division unit because they're
I'm
the
pro-
ones who will really guide
I'm
you.
like sometimes the problem is the one that does a cyber libel to you could be like a troll account, or let's say,
Mm-mm.
not a factual account, like in what do you call this,
Dummy
like
account.
a dummy or an alias na sikat, for
Yes.
example. This
Yes.
maraming ganun like it's not a person, it's just someone hiding behind an account that has a million followers, for example, in Facebook, and then you
Mm.
don't know who that person actually is. So
Mm-mm.
what can you do pag ganun naman?
That's why you go to the PNP Cybercrime Division unit. you hand in your phone, and then usually they have this whole technology or whatever to
That they
be
can
able to
find out.
trace and find out who it is. So
Yeah.
that's why I always advise my clients to go to the unit, if especially if they don't know who the person is.
Okay. All right. So guys, if you have that type of concern, make sure to take note of that. All right. Okay. I saw an article about Scarlett Johansson versus Marvel Studios. There was a breach of
Mm-mm.
it was sort of a
Contract.
breach of contract, like, and then
Yeah.
they had to fix it and stuff and settle on a common denominator to have it worked out.
Mhm.
What do you think about that kind of like breach of contract? It's normal, right? That you have
Yeah.
contracts with you and a company or another person, a business
Yeah.
partner. What happens with a breach of contract?
Well, I think what had happened there, right? Black Widow came out, and
Yeah,
then she had the contract with Marvel that it was only exclusively going to be just for theater. Like, papanood mo lang sa movies. But then they simultaneously played it in Disney Plus.
right,
So there was a breach of contract in her terms. So she filed a complaint on it. But they settled it. I always tell my clients also it's better to settle than to go to court, because
right.
going to court will always take you long and with
Mas
lots of
magastos.
mas magastos talaga siya. So it's
Oh.
better to settle. So it's good that she settled, and then I think wala na sa Disney Plus yung Black Widow, right?
So
Um
that's an important tip always for you guys to remember. Don't go to court. Like
yeah.
as much as possible, fix it behind or out. I mean outside the court. If you can settle it, you call it amicable settlement, right?
Amicable settlement, yes.
Right. So if you can always do that, do that as much as possible because it's
Yeah.
gonna take so much toll on your
Yeah.
finances and
Just
also on
that.
your mental health as well.
Yes. Just a tip also, if you're going to sign any contract, not
Yeah.
just Scarlett Johansson, right? Any contract,
Right.
look at the penalty clause, because sometimes, most of the time, the penalty clause is like twice as much as whatever amount they're gonna give you, the compensation.
I have
So
a
if you
question.
breach
I
your
get
contract, mm-mm.
Yeah, I get a lot of contracts. Is it good that you always show a friend who knows how to read contract that's a lawyer to read long, I mean thick contracts? Like I mean 3 5 pages that it's fine, but when it comes like 30 pages na 40 pages of contract that you have to sign every page, is it good that you actually ask for legal help for from someone to actually check on it? Baka may super fine line on page 35 na you
Yes.
have to give everything that you own in exchange for
Yes,
something.
it's always better for a lawyer to really look at it, because those thick contracts, they're usually standard contracts, and then you don't see that there's a sentence there that could implicate you, that could already make a breach of contract that you missed.
Right.
And it's always good because the lawyer will know and the limitations of what you can do and not do from page one
Yeah.
connected to page 35, or connected to page 50, or the annexes that's attached to it.
Oo, oo.
So always have at least a person who knows how to read contracts, to make sure that before you sign a contract, you know your
You're safe.
limitations so that you don't breach it.
Right. Because I've had a few clients of mine that are music artists. I'll say the music artists na lang sila. And they had a contract with, with a music label. And
Mm,
then, they were tied up. And then, they were promised they're going to be paid a certain amount of money. But then it
mm,
didn't say, it said in the contract na they have to reach a number of songs that they have to boost in a certain period of time or else they don't get it. So may
mm.
mga ganun. So it's always best that you always ask a lawyer if you're
Yes,
okay with para the lawyer will always ask, are you okay with this? Na sabi niya ganto, ganyan. Okay ka lang ba dito? Kasi if you're not okay, you can
yeah,
have this change, right? So
yes,
those are huwag kayong basta papabulag when it comes to money. Like when someone's paying a huge amount of money, and there's a contract involved, always check what's in it. And it's always best to have a friend that you can dial and send if it's a PDF file or what. To have them check lang. If you have, some doubts. Hindi naman ano
yes,
yun. I mean, sometimes kasi you have a gut feeling that na parang feeling mo lugi ka or some parang,
Yeah.
diba? We always have that kind of gut feeling and
Yeah.
sometimes our gut feelings are right. So,
Yeah.
hindi naman
So
siya magastos eh.
it's also best, it's one of the best practices to do is to be part of the negotiations of the contract. Yun
Yeah,
hindi lang binibigay sa'yo yung contract. Di ba? Makipag-negotiate ka sa terms para alam mo
right.
yung pinapasukan mo.
Yeah, like the length of your contract, how much you're gonna get, is it
Mm.
staggered, and things like those. So, marami kasing fine lines in between. No? So, you have to be careful with those when signing on. I've made those mistakes in my 20s. I've signed so many contracts wherein I could not get out in certain things, not just for employment, but contracts when, when doing certain jobs.
Mm.
So, it's so hard and tedious and it's just a hassle. So, that's why
Yeah.
if you can't if you have friends that know the basics of contract at least, that'll be really really helpful, right?
Yeah. You can ask attorney Migs. Joke lang.
There, I mean, you can send attorney Mix a DM, right? That's why you for sure you receive so many DMs also from people, no, for
Yeah, every
asking those
day.
every day, right?
Every
I
day.
think it's
Yeah.
it's re- it's really part of the role that lawyers actually play, right? Like you
Yeah.
really have those questions from people na for you it's so basic when I ask something like this, but for me, like, I didn't know that, right? I'll have those.
I actually enjoy it because I teach. I teach
Oh,
law, so
yeah,
like and it helps me kind of still keep myself like be in my toes, diba?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it keeps me up to date also and makes me research and makes me uh reread the laws.
So
But I do get a lot of questions, and I understand that most of the people, of course, who are not lawyers, don't really know even the most basic things, right? And what they can do.
right.
And everyone wants to know if what they're doing is right or how to guide them, or are they doing their, are they doing, are they in the right path or not, right?
So as a lawyer, it's always continuous learning for you, right? It's always like reading new things,
Yeah.
updates.
Yeah, as a lawyer, we have a thing called mandatory continuing legal education. Kasi MCLE siya. That we
Yeah,
have to do X number of hours for how many years to be updated sa law. So we keep on studying. And especially if you practice law, you always have to keep studying because of the cases that you handle. So it's a pretty boring life.
but I have a question. For example, I mean, you have a party list now, PBA, and then, for example, you win, right? And you're in position. Are you not allowed to practice
I'm not
law?
allowed to practice
Right?
law.
I
Yes.
heard that thing before. Like you cannot
Mm-mm.
practice when you're in position in the government, right?
Yes.
Even you're voted,
It
either voted
it
or.
depends on which position in the government. Like if you're a councilor, you
Mhm.
can still practice law. If you're a
Oh,
vice
okay.
mayor, you can still practice law. If you're mayor, you cannot. If you're a congressman, you cannot. If you're a senator, you cannot. National positions, you cannot.
Okay, okay. So, for example, you have your seat in with your parties as a congresswoman. You can't practice law anymore,
I can't practice
but
law.
you can
Yeah.
still give advice, right?
Well, technically, the practice of law is giving advice also. So I can
Oh,
give it on the side. I can't really do
and
the whole legal
you can do
advice
something
that
off,
would like
kumbaga off the record lang siya.
yeah, like well, what I think is this, but maybe talk to this lawyer.
Ah.
Parang ganon, 'di ba?
Is it really a necessity? Like, is it really a necessity, or is it just a plus that when you're in a national position like Congress or Senate, that you really have to be a lawyer or have a good grasp of what the laws are?
Well, we have a lot of politicians in
Right.
Congress who are not lawyers, right? And they're pretty good. And so it's not really a requirement. It's not in the requirement
Yeah.
in the Constitution. But I would like to think that because you know of the laws, then you would know of the laws that need more fine tuning, I suppose.
Right. Yeah.
So it kind of puts you more on like uh parang meron ka mas plus just because you kind of know the laws that are existing. But your point in your job as a lawmaker is to create laws. So even if I've studied the law, diba, if given the
Yeah,
chance,
yeah.
I will have to create laws. So
Right.
so like being a lawyer or not being a lawyer, right? You create laws. So the laws that I know, I can just like,
Okay. In 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 a quick one, if you're in a position as a congresswoman, what would be the first law that you would try to pass? Is
well, for
that something
PBA,
that
because I'm
yeah.
in sports, right? So
Uh
we're advocate sports. Really, I'm into grassroots support. So
mhm.
our laws are all like we the athletes only get enough money. I mean, they don't get enough money actually. They only get the money when they win in a game, in an Olympic game, a SEA
Right.
game, those, right? But they never really get support
That's
when they're
true.
training or
Okay.
when they're in the grassroots. So
Mm.
there's something that I want to study and kind of work with the schools, right, on how we can do support for grassroots or training palang. Not just them, but also the coaches, right?
Right.
For them to be sustained. Because even if they win, you win what, 1 million, but you spend a whole life
Right.
training, that's not enough. That's not
Yeah, that's
going
true.
to
That's
that's
true.
not gonna be enough to um pay back how many years of life, how many years of training, and how much
That's
amount
true.
you did for the
Uh,
support. So that's one of the things that I would want to do. Also, for like let's say like PBA players, those who have teams, right?
the athletes,
In
yeah.
the States, the athletes in the States, they're actually considered employees of the teams. So
Right.
they get
That's true.
benefits. Here, our athletes don't get benefits. They don't get SSS. They don't get PhilHealth. They don't get the standard benefits. So
But they
if
get
they're
insurance,
considered as
right? Do they get insurance when, for
it
example,
really
they get
depends on the team. It depends on
okay.
the team if they provide that, right, with the benefits. But if you consider athletes as, let's say, employees, and they get the standard benefits under the team because they are managed by the team anyway, which they can be considered as an employee, then they can get the basic benefits, which would help them. One
Right.
of the things that I'm studying right now, looking into it for ano, for PBA.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
hope that, I
Uh
hope that happens.
actually funny story. I used to train in the Philippine wrestling team in Greco-Roman for the SEA Games. So I was an alternate in the SEA Games around 2000.
Talaga?
Yeah, 2001 to 2007 until I got injured. I had a
Hmm.
shoulder injury when I broke my
Oh no.
collarbone while training with one of my teammates in the Philippine wrestling team. So we had we had allowances. I would call it allowances because at that time I think we were getting only about 8,000 pesos back then. As an athlete, that's a good thing for me. I have work and stuff, but like some of my co-athletes at that time, 8,000 is not really enough. Like the
Yeah,
food that they
exactly.
eat, the amount of nutrition that they get, that they spend on for food is not enough.
Where you
And
live
also
pa,
the
diba?
gear, and some of the gear we have to get to sponsorships by, and also it's very hard. Instead of the athlete focusing on just training, us training, like I remember training MWF 8 to 10, we would do morning oval training, track training, and then
Yeah.
afternoon 4 to 6 we would train physical training with our
Yeah.
partners. So
Yeah.
it takes a lot of calories. We need nutrition for about 8,000, 6,000 to 8,000, sometimes 10,000 calories a day. And
Yeah.
if you're in a budget of 8,000, like sardines and enervons, he will not be enough for a national athlete. So I
Yeah.
think
There's
it's
really a
improved. Yeah.
financial need for athlete support. Yung problema lang is where we gonna get the funds. So
Oh,
hopefully, right, if we'll get a seat in Congress, we'll try to figure it out.
Yeah, because really, I mean, we're so happy when athletes win, gold medals and
Mm,
have these accolades. But then behind the scenes, I know like most of the athletes that won, they have to ask for sponsorship or help from private individuals and companies.
yeah.
And I
And
think,
those who get sponsorships are the ones who are really, really good. Paano naman
oo,
yung
paano hindi
may
magaling?
potential
Yeah, may
or may
potential.
potential
Oo,
pero
oo, oo.
hindi lang nila nalalabas yung potential dahil
Right,
meron silang mga financial
right.
implications, right? So hindi
Yeah,
sila nakaka-train 100%. So
correct.
yun yung mga kawawa, 'di ba? Na
Oo.
yun pala, pwede pala silang maging next gold medalist. It's just they're having
I
financial
know. Like
problems.
the Philippines has really excelled in individual sports more than team sports. So most
Mm.
individual sports really require a lot of support, not just
Yeah.
emotionally but financially as well. So
That's
it's
true.
really
That's
helpful that
true.
there's entities like PBA that can actually do that for athletes. Kaya it's I feel the pain kasi I remember the pain that
Yeah, yeah.
my teammates
Yeah,
had like
yeah. I
like
mean, ako rin atleta ako nung bata ako, but I'm fortunate enough that, my parents supported,
correct. Yeah,
my uniforms, 'di ba?
correct.
Ikaw pa bibili kasi ng mga uniforms mo,
Oh,
ng
oh.
mga sapatos mo, 'di
Like
ba?
for me,
Paano naman
wrestling,
yung mga iba?
mahal
Mm.
yung gear namin, the shoes, the wrestling shoes that we have, the gear that we have to wear, the protective gear that we have, and besides that, the nutrition we have to spend. I
Yeah.
imagine I was probably spending around
And all
30
your
to forty
PT, 'di
thousand.
ba? Kung
What?
wrestling yun, may mga PT-PT pa kayo
Oh,
kasi
yeah.
syempre nabubugbog kayo. Mahal-mahal ng
Correct.
PT.
I mean, when I got injured, my collarbone, where I collarbone got broken, and I had to take 6 months away from training, and I paid for that myself. I
Yeah.
didn't get any
Yeah.
any support from that. How about my teammates who are the athlete? Kasi training team lang ako eh, so training pool
Yeah.
lang. So iba yung sa actual na nagte-training, and a lot really depend on that as a form of livelihood din. So it's really important that we take care of our athletes
Yeah.
as a country. I
And
think
and
yeah,
a lot depend on like the athletes depend on sports to also educate themselves, right? They can
right.
get scholarships through sports.
Oo.
So, marami talagang mga atleta kailangan na
Oh,
tulungan.
yeah, yeah. Also, sorry, I forgot. Like when we were training in wrestling, we had to go to Mongolia, and some of our athletes don't even have the money to go from the Philippines to Mongolia to train.
Walang pang plane ticket,
Walang
no?
plane ticket,
Oo.
so we have to get sponsorships from airlines, the hotel na kung saan magsi-stay, kung kahit
Mm.
siksikan na lang or all pati yung food in another country,
Mm.
mahal yun. So all
Mm.
these things, a lot of our athletes that won, they actually trained in other countries, hindi lang here na
Yes.
para they can
Yes.
gauge themselves. So
Yeah,
this,
like right now, I know Nesty is in Thailand
see,
training. 'Di
right?
ba? Si Hedelin trained in, if I'm not mistaken, Malaysia or
Yeah,
Singapore, right?
she trained in another country because those are where the top athletes are as well. You can't just gauge yourself for globally and then you're training with
Yeah.
homegrown talent only. It's not enough, eh. Like
Yeah.
yeah, that's why for us, for example, I train also in jiu-jitsu. It's important that we try to play also with people who are outside of our country, and that's how the game elevates itself. So
Yeah.
it again it falls down to budget. Like kaya
Yes,
nga sabi
again.
nila
That's
may mga
why
sports na ay pang mayaman lang yan. Like kunyari, fencing or
golf,
archery,
mahal ng
golf,
golf.
right?
Oo,
Oh,
'di ba?
I remember one of our
Mm.
top talents is sponsored by, a big company. But kung walang sponsorship from that, paano yung ibang may potential like that person, right?
Yeah.
So, ay,
I'm not saying, right, that I will solve that problem, but with PBA, we will try because it's
yeah,
very difficult, especially how to do that law, how to find the budget for that to sustain all the athletes. But we
yeah.
will try, of
There,
course.
there's not. I don't know any other party list that can actually do that for athletes right now, except for PBA. So it's really helpful if you're an athlete to
Yeah.
support PBA because that's what it does for athletes. So you are, you know, to vote. You're number 50. Yeah, number 52. Okay.
Number 52. Sa likod ng balota, it's at the back of the ballot. All the party lists now are at the back of the ballot, so please don't forget. And you can only vote for one
Yeah, I
because
know.
if you vote
Why?
for two,
I have a question.
you
Why
will
is it that I can vote for 12 senators? I know I vote only for one
yeah,
president and VP, but
yeah.
how come I can only vote for one party list?
Because that's what the Constitution says. Well, it really started because it's a sectoral representation. So
Okay.
before, party lists were really small, right? It was just
Right.
like a sector. This different sector would vote for. If you're a farmer, you would vote for this sector. So you only vote for one. You only vote for one. But now, with the political atmosphere, there are about 140 plus party lists that are trying to get elected. So you can only
Okay.
choose for one. If if you
Okay.
choose two, zero yung vote mo sayang, 'di ba?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that so nananalify yun if you
Oo.
accidentally shaded two.
Yeah. So sa PBA na.
Okay. I have two more questions regarding laws. One is I'm very interested in this. It happens
Sure.
to it happened to one of my staff. We're in remember the BDO hack thing, like the bank thing that
Mm, mm.
nahack siya. What do you think about that? Are there any bank obligations involved with
Yeah.
if that happens? Like for example, all of a
You know
sudden I
that
have all
that
my money
happened
is
to
lost.
me. Yeah. Not naman all my money was lost. But that happened to me. Kasi 'di ba now, 'di ba,
Nabawasan.
dahil online may mga yan, yung mga like credit card na gamit yung credit card, 'di ba?
Oo.
So what you can do is now there's an internal thing with video that you call them. It takes 50 years before they answer. Hindi, joke lang. Tagal eh. Ang tagal kasi pag tumawag ka sa
Oo.
customer service, but that's the
Right.
only way. And then you file a complaint, and then it usually takes 30 days for them to do a fraud investigation on it, and then they will recredit it back to you. So it's
Right.
very much internal now, but the bank can file for cybercrime if they get hacked
Mm. Yeah.
because it's cybercrime,
Right.
and they have the obligation to repay you because
Okay.
there's a creditor debtor relationship between a bank and you. So because you put your money there, and there's the ones who's supposed to be, what do you call this? To ensure the security against any fraudulent acts, any hacking, then they're really supposed to pay you back. And sila na magbahala magkaso sa kung sino man nag-hack sa kanila.
Right. I mean, it's such a hassle, really. Like, for
But it's a
example, you're
hassle to do. Yeah,
right.
to have
Imagine,
to call. Yeah.
yeah, imagine regular employee, and then all your salary is gone, and then you have
Sakit
to pay your
nun.
your
Oo,
bills and
yun.
stuff.
Yun yung masakit.
It's
Yeah, yeah. And that happens. That's reality.
it's reality. Yeah.
So, what you can do, the first thing you do is you call the bank and you file for a complaint.
Right.
And yun lang nga, it will take about 30 days because they're gonna have to do an investigation on it.
I know. So
Diba?
that's the best case that you can do as a
Mm-mm.
person that happened. Okay.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
All right.
Yun lang.
Okay.
Malungkot, no?
Oh, it is. I mean, anything regarding money loss is, it is depressing for a lot of people. But yeah, at least you know what you can actually do. I mean, focus on the things that you can do, not on the things that you can't do. That's what I always
Yeah.
say, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
One last question about and it is about Facebook. It's about the data privacy scandal thing. There's been a lot of cases
the
wherein
hacking also, no?
yes, that they all your information. They know so much about your tendencies, what you click on and stuff and everything. So what should netizens do or should know? And any thoughts about this?
For me, there's in Facebook, there's this automatic kasi siya, diba, that once you put anything there on Facebook, already consider that to be a public, diba, na,
Right.
so, first, don't post so much unless you want it to be public. to be
Right.
publicized, right? And also, look at the privacy settings. If you're gonna go to Facebook, look at the privacy settings, especially when you update. When you update, kasi bumabago yung mga privacy settings nila.
Oo,
So you
true.
look at the privacy settings, and then you look at like if Facebook can do this and that, they can look at your profile, if they can, there's check boxes, right? If you go to the
Yeah.
Facebook account and you go to the tools, I'm looking at my Facebook now tuloy. Alam ko may kaka-update lang na gano'n tapos parang may hack
Right.
na ano na parang on your personal information, don't put it. There's now Facebook Pay. Don't put your credit card there. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
the
yeah. Facebook Pay. Like don't put your
yeah,
credit card info.
don't put your credit card info because now ang galing ng mga hackers eh. And 'di ba, once you're already in social media, even if they get hacked and whatever, don't put also when you post pictures, and always tell everyone when you post pictures, don't post pictures where your car is there, your plate number is there,
Oh
your
yeah,
house is there, your
correct. House
you know,
number, your car plate number can be traced. You
yeah,
know, if someone
yeah,
hates on you, what they can do, they can ask Grab to deliver something to your house, and you have to pay for it. So it's just a hassle to do that.
yeah.
Even your plate number can be reported, kunyari stolen. So it's gonna be a hassle
Pati
for you.
yung ano, location services, yung location mo, I don't do that. Yung mga location sa Instagram, sa Facebook, yung mga ganon. Don't do
Yeah.
that. Um, Yun, don't put your credit card information.
One tip
Keep
I would tell
everything
also
private.
to people is
Mm-mm.
if you're in a place na you don't want people to know that you're there, delay posting it. Like kunyari nakaalis ka na,
Yes.
don't do it like super real time. If you're going on
Hashtag
live,
late post. Ganon.
oo. Okay lang kunyari nasa concert ka or an event na maraming tao, pero if you don't want people to know that you're actually there and it could be dangerous for you, don't do it. Be careful when
Mm-mm.
you share your live status unless you really want people to
Yeah.
know that you're actually there. Yeah.
Ako, I always check, because Facebook always updates, I always check the tools, and you look at the settings and look at the privacy, and, uncheck or check whatever that needs to be unchecked there to secure you for that.
Okay, so be careful. And really, guys, be careful what you post. Like I've seen,
Yeah.
like sometimes I just shake my head when I see my friends, post their car that you just bought their car, and then even the registration number, the registration sticker.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
can trace where that is, your address, and people that
Exactly.
don't like you will do something very nasty with it.
Yeah.
I've seen those things happen to the best of them. So careful. I mean, it's nice to share what you have and share to your friends that you
Hashtag
have.
blessed, diba?
Oh, hashtag blessed. That's fine and all, but be careful what you share. Sometimes yung plane ticket, they post their plane tickets. Sabi ko, don't ever post their actual plane
Yeah,
ticket. It's not safe.
they can trace that, 'di ba? Yung
Oh,
mga
they can trace
information
it.
mo kasi may
Yeah.
parang barcode yun or something, 'di ba?
Oh,
Lalo
and
na.
and
They
one
can
thing
trace that.
people can do, someone can say na, oh, there's someone on board in your plane that's a terrorist or something like that. They can play around and sabihin nila, oh, in that flight there's a terrorist there.
Oh,
That's the
pero
name of.
cybercrime na yun. Oh,
Oh, may
babalik
mga
tayo sa
ganon.
cybercrime.
Babalik na tayo sa cybercrime. So, careful about
Oh,
that, guys. Be careful about sometimes it's just too much information that we all share online, right?
that is true. That is true. So be
Okay.
careful. Be careful with what you post, with before you click. Be careful with
Yes.
your online life. Be private na lang, 'di ba? If you want
Yeah.
a quiet life.
Like me, people say I'm one of the most public persons, but my private life I keep it, intact as well. But you can be public about your thoughts and stuff, but when it comes to your private life, your like sort of things that are important to you, be careful about sharing them because a lot of people
Yeah,
really don't really want but what's best for you in actuality. Some people,
yeah.
they're envious and all that.
Maraming inggitero sa mundo.
Correct.
Maraming
Yeah.
marites sa mundo.
Yeah.
Maraming
And
mga
and
ganyan.
some people would say, okay lang, mainggit sila, mamatay sila sa inggit. And the time comes that it becomes a problem for you. You regret doing that as well. So,
Yes, that's
you
very
know,
true.
Yeah, if you're not ready, I mean, if you're not ready for the repercussions of your actions, don't do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I agree.
okay.
I completely
So,
agree with that.
if people want to get in touch with you, where are you mostly hanging out in? Facebook, TikTok, or what?
I do a lot. I do both Facebook and TikTok.
Okay.
But so I have my Facebook account, Attorney Mix Nograles. Yeah, and
Mhm.
public yun.
Ah,
So every Monday I do a live for free legal consultation. So
nice.
6:30 p.m. We do topics, and then there's a segment there that we do the live comments wherein I answer the questions. If you can't do the
Nice.
live, you can message my
Right.
page, and then someone will get back to you. I'll get back to you with your questions, and then I'll give you an answer. Sa TikTok naman, you can follow me at Attorney Mix Nograles. There are legal concerns there, but there's also mga pakwela, pasayaw-sayaw. Syempre, hindi naman kailangan
Hey, I
laging
mean, if
seryoso.
I mean, dancing is a good way to catch attention of people, to share information and educate people. I've seen your TikTok videos as well, and some of them are really informational. So it's really the attention that the dancing and stuff that really gets attention, and it's good to have fun. I mean,
Yeah.
at times, right?
At saka
I mean,
PBA tayo, so kailangan magpakita na, diba, we dance, we do sports, we do,
right.
we're energetic. Because, of course, as your
What sport do you
representative,
play right now?
right now, badminton.
Badminton.
Yes.
Yeah, I miss playing badminton kasi wala akong
Yeah.
kalaro dito.
Baka wala
I
kang kaibigan.
No, ako table tennis kasi yung laro ko eh. So I have a table
Ang
tennis
hirap
table.
nun.
Oh, I used to be a varsity in high school and college. So it's like riding a bike. You get used to.
Ikaw naman yung nagpapasimplex ngayon. Joke lang.
That's what I really like doing back then. Table tennis and basketball. Those are my some of my competitive sports. But it's sports is really fun. That's what I'll say. It doesn't
And
really choose an age.
sports gives you discipline. That's what I would always say.
That's
If you're
true.
lalo na if you're an athlete or you love sports, it gives you discipline. It trains you to be a hard worker and to never
For
give
sure.
up on whatever you want to pursue, diba?
For sure. And that, my friends, is a great mindset that sports can actually give you. Right. So that's it. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for in
Thank
this
you.
conversation at Attorney Mix. I really appreciate you. And
Yeah.
I'll see you again,
I
guys.
had fun. I had fun.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Thank you so much. Bye bye.